And welcome back to Coach Talk. We are on Zoom again. Hi, LJ.
Hi, Dave. It's wonderful to see your smiley face as always.
Smiling today, smiling every day. Do you know what? Before we start, how did you like our podcast interview with Christine Tiley?
I loved talking to Christine. She's such an inspiration. Her and her daughter, Sophie, they're
Yeah,
amazing people.
yeah. It was our last podcast on Zoom, I think it was.
It was our first, yeah, it was our very
Our,
first
our very
podcast that we
first.
did with Zoom was with Christine, and it was also our last podcast we did on Zoom.
We had a great
But it was
time.
really nice to explore that with her.
We had a great time. Thank you, Christine, and I'm sure she'll be listening to our podcasts and tuning in. So thank you for a wonderful podcast. We had a laugh, a bit of a giggle. We had insights. We had everything in it, and it was great. I think that you and I just had a great time with Christine, and I'm sure she had a great time with us as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. It
yeah,
was really nice to just explore the world and different perspectives with good people.
yeah, absolutely. So today we're going to talk about another subject, something else, which is a great thing. I wanted to discuss something before I do, which is just a little precursor to what I'm going to throw at you because you have no idea, once again, what we're going to talk about. I just like
I love our rabbit holes.
just like throwing things at you. So there's this guy, right? There's this guy, and I suppose we can call him Harry. There's this guy. He's been married for 50 years to a beautiful wife of his, and he loves his wife so much. So he was getting a bit concerned that she was losing her hearing and she was becoming quite deaf, and it was worrying him a lot. So he went to his GP. He sat with his GP, the family GP, and said to his doctor, "I'm really concerned about my wife. She's just not hearing me, and I think she's going deaf. What can I do? Because I'm really worried." The GP said, "Look, let's start from the beginning and just do some preliminary exercises and just see how we go. So I want you to go back home and I want you to talk to her from far away in the house and get closer and closer and just see when she starts to hear you, and we can determine from there what sort of distance it is that she's having hearing loss." So good old Harry said, "That's a great idea." So he went back home. That night, his wife is cooking dinner and he's standing way back in the lounge room, and he says in quite a loud voice, "What's for dinner?" And she kept her back turned to him, and there was no response. And so he thought, that's interesting. So he took a few steps forward and moved out of the lounge room towards the kitchen, but still a fair way away. "What's for dinner?" said Harry, and still no response. So he's getting a little bit concerned. So he got a bit closer again and he said, "What's for dinner?" and no response. And this is quite concerning because he's only 10 feet away from his lovely wife, and he's a bit worried. So he steps up and he's only literally about a metre away. "What's for dinner?" And still nothing. And she's just working with the stove. So he leans close to her and looks at her and from behind into her ear and says, "What is for dinner?" And she turns around and says, "Harry, for the fifth time, I've told you we're having steak and vegetables," which is interesting. So it's a bit of a theme today. So it actually was her that could hear quite well, and he couldn't hear at all. I want to talk about effective listening today, and this is something that you and I, as coaches, we live on this. We hang off this a lot about being an effective listener. One thing I like about our podcasts and what we do is we talk a lot about things that people can take away. Everyday people can take away with them. You don't have to be a high performance athlete. You don't have to be someone high up in the corporate world, or someone who's anyone who is on our podcasts and listens to us and enjoys what we do. What I love about how we talk and what we process and promote is we give people things that they can take away with them right now. Like we talked about
Absolutely.
the power of music and grounding yourself, and the benefits of smiling, and I think we talked about sleep, and all these things that just everyday people like you and I can take away. So one thing I want to talk about today is effective listening, and I want to ask you, LJ, and I know my answer for me is, have you come across people in your life that straight away when you are talking to somebody about anything, you feel in yourself that they're just not listening to you, or they're not they're not hearing you. They're not effective in their listening skills. And okay, they're present as in they're physically present as a person, but they're not actually listening to what you're saying. And how does that make you feel if you've had that sort of example?
Yeah, this is a great topic.
Yeah,
Great topic. And thank you for taking us down this rabbit hole, Uncle Dave. It's
you're
always like
welcome.
Dave's little adventures. It's great. I guess, yes, of course, we've all come across those people. And I think this is just a personal perspective. I believe that we come across them for two reasons. One is to help us learn
Mm,
the other side of communication, because we're taught communication is all about our words and our language and how we say things, but we're actually not taught to listen to actually what's being communicated. So I think that
sure.
that's one thing. It's part of growth. And
Yep. Yep.
the other opportunity that we get when we meet people who don't hear us, because there's a mismatch in communication. And I like to, sorry for the telcos, but I like to say it's like one person's talking Telstra and another person's talking Optus. They don't tend to kind of blend very well. But it's more from the perspective that sometimes you've got to have a contrast of what doesn't suit and what annoys you, so that you know how not to be. And so
Yeah.
that you can
Yep.
actually then step more into productive growth of using as an example of who you don't want to be because of how it made you feel. Like normally it makes you feel small, it makes you feel like the conversation was a waste of time, or that they weren't genuinely interested, so why bother talking to them at all? That's normally a risk, how that situation makes a lot of people feel.
Yeah, I agree. I've had conversations with people where I'm saying something a little bit sensitive or something a little bit personal, and then immediately I feel, you know what, you're not even listening or you're not even hearing me, and I feel that I just want to shut down and just stop talking because I'm not being heard about something. And I'm sure everyone on the planet, everyone's felt that at some stage about being heard or being listened to by somebody else. One thing I listened to a podcast a long, long time ago, and there was a guy talking, and I've heard this before this podcast, but there was a comment made, and it was in relation to personal relationships, and I think it was personal relationships, and one thing this guy was talking about, and I can't remember who he was, he mentioned one thing in a relationship, and I can use this anywhere when you are talking to someone about a personal thing or something important, is quite often people that listen to others want to offer advice either too quickly or they just jump in with advice when it's not needed. And one thing I did like about this guy, he said, why don't you ask the person that you're with, would you like me to offer you some advice or would you like me to just listen?
Yeah, that's a great perspective to come from. And really
Yeah.
funny because I was having that conversation with myself today. Like really, really funny. And I
Okay.
guess this is an even more pertinent topic because we have September, and September is also the month of Are You Okay Day. So a lot of businesses and a lot of people jump on board the Are You Okay Day, and they wear yellow, which is fantastic because it's a very, very important cause for mental health. This is something that we're not taught. We are asked to check in with our people that we care about, our work colleagues, our friends, our family, but we're actually, are you okay? And then not really hearing when they respond to, yeah, I'm okay, and not reading between the lines, or not having that skill set to actually listen more deeply. So thank you so much for bringing this up. I really think this topic is going to benefit a lot of people.
I think so. That's a really great comment you just said because without we have not rehearsed this as we never do. You've just brought a great segue into the next part of this conversation where I learnt about that comment, or would you like me to offer advice, or would you like me just to listen to you? Which a lot of people say, I just want to vent. I just want you to listen. But there's a comment further past that when someone actually says, like you talk about, "Are you okay?" Day. There's a further question of, how would you like me to help you? And that's quite powerful. So with a lot of people they might lead into something that they're looking for help or advice, or to be pointed in a direction or anything like that. It's a really simple, how would you like me to help you? And even if we haven't got an answer to that, we're still being present with them, and we can look at finding an answer, or we can look at referring them to someone, or you sit back and relax. I've got it. I'll find something for you. I'll get an answer for you. I'll get back to you. And then you give them a time frame, which gives them confidence and trust. I'll get back to you tomorrow. I'll get back to you in half an hour, or whatever else it is. But I think it's really important as well to say to someone, would you like me to offer some advice, or would you like me just to listen to you? And then in the conversation, how would you like me to help you? It's,
Yeah, really, really fantastic insights there,
yeah,
because some people just need to vent. And sometimes it's about, like, let's take Are You Okay Day here in Australia anyway. And we have, I think it was last Thursday for us, we have Are You Okay? But if you're really curious and you're switched into active listening, which is what we're essentially going down that rabbit hole of active listening, someone who says, yeah, I'm okay, if you know them really well, you'll know that that response is on the wrong side of the above and below the line that we talk about, so that you can go, what's just okay, because that's not, do you know what I mean? You can ask better questions and curious. You can go, what's okay look like for you? Or you're normally really upbeat and happy, and what's going on that, I can I support you? So all of those beautiful questions that you've just brought up are super, super important, because you can ask them multiple times during the conversation, not as a way of not hearing them, but as a way of actually checking in to say, what do you need? I'm here to support you, but what help is going to be effective, so that we're not taking away the accountability of self-help and self-advocacy.
yeah, yeah. I love it. Absolutely. There's so much in that. In all of that. This is actually another rabbit hole that we can go down for hours, really, if we wanted to, but obviously we can't. I want to go through some points here with what constitutes an ineffective listener versus an effective listener. And this is for people that would like to improve their listening skills. It's not about looking for fault in people. It's about developing yourself, looking for growth, all those sort of things. It's really important. So one thing I'd like to talk about is just some point form on ineffective listening versus being an effective listener. And this is something that, for those that are listening to our podcast and always tune in, it's something that they can identify within themselves, 1 point or 2 points, or maybe the whole lot. And there's things here that I can identify with myself as well, the things that I need to improve on. And it brought back some of these points that I'll discuss with you. It brought back some ideas for me of, yes, I am like this, or yes, I know someone who is like this. And it was interesting to go through these. So the first one I've got is ineffective. I'll go through ineffective first. And the reason being is I want to go through what makes an effective listener last in a coaching space, because and for people that are joining us and learning about coaching, is we anchor the positive at the end. So we want to anchor this and make sure that it's something that sticks with you. So ineffective
May I just put a
listeners,
small disclaimer in there,
you go
just before
disclaimer
you go
away.
down? Just small disclaimer. We are all human, and we all have elements and times when our listening isn't on par, and that's okay. What's really important is to recognize what our standard of listening is for the benefit of the conversation. I just wanted to really put that in there, because we're all guilty of jumping in like I just did to you
You
then.
just did.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Okay, ineffective listeners. There's one person I know in my life who does this quite a lot, and the first one is they are preoccupied with their own self as a listener. This person I know is a wonderful guy. He's fantastic. We struggle to have conversations about anything because literally 3 words into a conversation, hi Dave, how are you? Pretty good, thanks, my weekend was, and then we'll jump in, I did this, I did that, I went and watched the football, and it goes back to being preoccupied with himself, and that goes to, how's work travelling for you? How's your car was broken down last time I spoke to you? How's your car going? Yeah, my car's okay. My car and then goes back to being preoccupied with himself. And it makes the conversation, and it makes you feel, as someone who wants to contribute to the question, they're not listening to you. So for me, I struggle to have conversations with somebody like that. What about you?
Again, we're all guilty of being both sides of the coin here. So I just want to make that really, really clear. There's no judgment here. What it is a growth acknowledgement of where we can do better. But absolutely, um, we all will have that one person that is, would it be fair to say, a little bit more egotistically driven in terms of a bit more self-focused driven, where it's below the line behavior rather than above the line behavior because they can't see past their own space.
Yeah.
And therefore, they actually inhibit their own growth because they don't have that ability to expand their skills that open doors through other conversations.
I think the word ego is pretty important in this one because they're preoccupied with their own self, which is self is the ego, so that's pretty valid. What about guys that appear disinterested? They ask you a question, and when you reply, they're quite disinterested about anything you have to say.
That's just rude.
Yeah.
That's sorry, there's no other word for it. That's just really rude.
Mm, yeah. I've had that in social circles. Someone's walked up and, "Hi Dave, how you going?" Shook my hand, "How's everything going?" And as soon as you open to say the first word, they're looking the other way and looking around, and it's interesting. It's like, for me, maybe a bit of a stronger personality in me. I just don't talk. I just won't
I've had it where
say
you
anything.
we've walked down the street where we've both been out in coffee shops and you say hello to somebody and then you'll get crickets.
Mm,
And it's like, okay.
yeah, yeah,
I just again I believe that they place more self-importance on them on whether you're worthy enough to have a conversation with. That's their perspective of them. And what it does is it actually shows up more of their character flaws more than it says anything about you. So never take that situation personally,
yeah. Have you had
even though
someone
it's
that
really hard to do.
Have you had someone that you're talking with, and they are the listener, and as you were saying something, they repeatedly say yes, 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 and they rush through their yeses to you, and it's like it's almost cutting you short, and it's a bit of disinterest. It's a little bit of moving on or get to the point or something like that. And I've had that as well when you're saying something. Yes, 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 yep, 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 yep. How does that one make you feel?
That one's more a case of, well, I don't know why I'm in this conversation
Mm,
because they're actually just responding. Then, oh, sorry, they're just reacting with a word. They're not actually taking on board because quite often they're distracted by their own thoughts or what's happening in the background. I mean, God bless our seniors. I know a lot of people, and sorry, Dad, I'm going to mention my dad when he's really distracted and I'm on the phone. I can always tell when he's watching telly because I'll ask him about his day and God love him. Everybody knows how much I adore my dad. But when he gets distracted, I can hear it because he does the yes, 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 and I'll go yep, and I turn my pair blue, and we're getting, and I'm doing this, and oh by the way, and I'll just create this most elaborate story, knowing full well he doesn't listen, because it
mm,
makes me laugh to know that it's okay. He's totally distracted, so I can say whatever.
yeah. There's a difference of acknowledging someone with a yes or acknowledging you hear them versus just this, I'll use the word flippant, a flippant yes, yep, 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 where the listening skill is decreased a little bit there.
Do you think maybe instead of saying yes, you could actually go, "I'm hearing you." That must be challenging. Being more actively in your responses.
Absolutely. And being more present with the person, and that's a common one. And it's actually quite a powerful and important one and I do say it a lot to people, I hear you. And I don't offer any advice or suggestions or solutions, but it's quite powerful to people that are saying something that's important to them to respond with, I hear you. And
Or I
then
feel
nothing.
you.
Mm, yeah, yeah. definitely. I
because it's
haven't
more
used I
about,
feel you before. I don't think I've, but yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
especially for, I mean, you're quite an empathetic person, but you're an amazing listener too. Whereas for me personally, when I'm talking to somebody, I tune into the emotion through the
Mm.
words.
Yep.
Does that make sense? So,
It
and again,
does.
it's
Yeah.
just different perspective.
It
So
does. Yeah. Yeah.
when
Yeah.
when I say I feel you, or I can see that's really upsetting for you. So it's just a better way of acknowledging, other than to say yes, yes, yes. But I think it's also, God bless the seniors, I think it's a little bit of a generational thing, because that's what they knew. So that's how they've learnt to behave.
Yep. Yep.
But the beauty about it, we can all choose to be different if we want to.
I love the word choose and choice. We can. We can. I worked in a company years and years ago for an interesting boss, and his habit was if you walked into his office, quite often he would he'd push his chair back and he'd sit in his chair and put his feet up against the desk and would throw a tennis ball against the wall while he's talking to you. So you'd be in his office, and he was quite a high level boss. You'd be in his office and you'd be talking about something that is important, strategic, something that is going to impact the business, and he would be throwing this tennis ball against the wall and talking to you, which for me felt like I wasn't being heard, which I believe I wasn't being heard because he may have had his mind made up already or about the outcome or whatever it was, but he didn't validate people that walked into his office to talk about anything, even if he called a meeting or summoned someone. Like once he asked me to go and see him, and when I walked in, he's throwing that ball against the wall with his feet up on the desk. One thing I find in improving listening skills is try not to fidget. And that's a form of fidgeting, but tapping your pen on the table, fidgeting with something, whatever it is. And he went to the extreme by throwing a tennis ball against the wall. And that's something he's done for years and years, and it's just become a habit with him. But fidgeting is an important thing, because as somebody fidgets in the listening skill, the person talking, once again, they don't want to continue because they feel they're not being heard, because the other person fidgeting is also displaying a lack of interest. They're not engaging, they're not present. So that was another one that I found interesting in doing a little bit of research, that it's true. I thought about people I know that fidget when you talk to them, and I thought that's actually quite a valid point.
Oh, absolutely.
Hmm.
Question: did you ever have the opportunity to express to that person that you acknowledge that that might be his way, but it actually made you feel that way? Was that something that was able to be done?
Not with this guy, not with this high level boss. It's no, no. I never. I don't think. You know when you sometimes not work out of fear, but you respect the higher levels in business. And for me, I didn't feel confident to say, why are you throwing a ball against the wall, or can we have a chat without you throwing the ball? I couldn't do that. A lot younger I was, and I just didn't have that confidence that I could do that in this business. It wasn't. No,
Wasn't
I couldn't do that.
wasn't the time or place?
Today, a bit older and
Interesting though.
everything, yeah, I could quite easily, but
Yeah.
not back then. No.
Yeah, but what a great lesson and a great perspective. Like I wish, like with this, there's two things that come out of that very statement that you just made. One is, like, we are high performance leadership coaches, and listening and the skills of listening is not often mentioned in a leadership forum. It's always about showing up, being present. We teach looking after the person beside you, because you don't have to have the position or the title to be a leader. Because I think that's one of the qualities of a leader in any organization, regardless of title or rank. When you ask the team where they go for problem solving, that person that they actively seek will have really good listening skills to be able to respond rather than react. And they actually are more solution focused. And I think that it's a very important skill that's overlooked in this current generation of business. I mean, it's sort of an undertow that's possibly rising, and I love that we're talking more about it. But it's not a skill that we're teaching our kids, because currently, if we look at our children and the younger people who are entering the workforce at the moment, they've been raised on um, the older platform of just do it and text it.
Yeah.
So we're not teaching active listening. And it brings up, you would have heard this as well, because we're similar ilk in generation. My grandparents used to say a child is seen and not heard. But that's when we actually probably learned our listening skills of knowing what conversations were for us and what weren't. And you only spoke when you were spoken to. So when you start to talk about active listening in that context, those statements that we grew up with have a slightly different resonance to them, because we were taught to listen and to be mindful and to be present and respectful when we're talking to people. And I
Absolutely.
think that it's a lost art.
I do too. I
I love
totally
this
agree.
topic.
It's a great topic. There's anagram of listen is silent as well, and I know people know this. It's, you rearrange letters and listen becomes silent. And I know what you're going to say here, but my question to you is, how important, how powerful is silence when you are the listener, when hearing someone who has something to say, a story to tell, a problem to discuss, happiness, a great result in something, a happy life moment. How important is silence as the listener? Exactly.
Absolutely. I love it. Exactly. And whilst you were saying the silence, I'm reminded that you and I are both music people. Music happens between the notes,
Yeah.
and the conversation and providing that space and that little bit of silence and practicing. There's a saying, practice the pause. It allows you to kind of pick up on the undertows of emotion, facial expression, body language, not just the words that are said. Because we all can, well, we talk so much about authenticity, and
Yeah.
Are You Okay Day is one of those really good days where, if you are open to practicing it, you know who is authentically okay and above the line. And
Yeah.
if you have that silence to just be with somebody and just give them the space, you pick up so much more, which leads to better opportunities to support that person.
Yeah. Absolutely. I know silence is something that I've worked hard on, and I know you have too, in many, many years of being a good listener. One thing I found very powerful for me, talking with people that want to share something that they find extremely important to them, was for me to stay silent. And it's good for someone, for our listeners, give this a go, give it a try with someone that you know, or someone that has something to say. Try the silence. Try as soon as they finish speaking and it's an important matter, instead of jumping straight into making a comment, let it sit for a while. Just a little bit of silence. And I mean, 5 seconds of silence is a long time, but it's a powerful time in the process. And then when the silence is over, a basic question like, how would you like me to help you? And that follows the silence, that makes you a very powerful, effective, and respectful listener. People take note of that, and then you've built rapport, you've built trust, you've built a relationship where people feel they can share with you, they can talk to you, and it's purely by sitting back on your heels a little bit of silence, and then, how would you like me to help you? And generally, people know how they need to be helped, or if they want advice, or if they want direction. They have an idea which way they want to go, and then they'll help you and lead you into you them helping them. Well, I was thinking about doing it this way. Oh, that's great. Can I offer a suggestion? Oh, I'd love to hear it. No worries. How about, and off you go with something. And that seems to work very well with a listener versus a solution person or someone who doesn't have a solution, whatever it is. It seems to work that way. And I find silence is golden. It works.
Oh, this is golden.
Yeah, it
It
works a
does.
lot. So we move
It's
into,
it's like a clarifier, isn't it?
it definitely clarify. And I remember guys from years ago that people would say to me, "Oh, he's such a great guy," or "She's such a great person. She's a lovely lady. She's so warm." Or he just. I feel like I talked to him all day long, and the common theme with these people was they displayed silence, and they used it to their advantage. And and I've seen that. And you talk about fathers. My father did that extremely well. Silence is a powerful, powerful medium to create a relationship and also to create trust and let people say what they want to say. I think silence is such an important factor in listening.
I'd love to add to that because so many people are people pleasers because we jump to action rather than and take on board um, topics that aren't necessarily ours to take on board. And I say that because I'm a recovering people pleaser. If you can practice a little bit more active listening, and this is something that I found has really helped in my space, if you can practice some active listening and the pause, it 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 means that you're shifting the accountability for action and results and solutions really back to the person who's sharing the story. And if they want you to take that on board, again, it gets back to those beautiful questions that you said earlier. How can I support you? What are you looking for that I can maybe help with that? Because we do take as humans, I mean, we're all born to connect, but we do take on a lot of stuff that's not necessarily ours. And then practicing some active listening and then really practicing that silence or that pause to give us some vision around the clarity of the situation. And even a clarifier to say, Dave, thank you for sharing that with me. This is what I'm hearing. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah, and that's a really great comment, that one. You hear that a lot in coaching with people that have been around a long time. They show gratitude and say, thank you for sharing. Thank you for telling me this must have been difficult. Thank you for letting me know. It's an easy way to validate someone and make them feel comfortable for getting out the difficult conversation that they wanted to say. That's a good point.
This
Yeah,
is such a great conversation.
it's a good one. Let's move
Great
into
topic.
let's move into becoming an effective listener, and this is now moving up into um, challenge yourself with the people out there. Challenge yourself with pick one or two, three things here, and I want to overarch silence as one of the best ones. But to be an effective listener is so easy. We can all do this. We can all improve the way that we listen to our partners, family, people in the workplace, people, and you and I do the same thing, LJ. We meet people on the street, and quite easily, I love off the cuff conversations with people that I meet in coffee shops or whatever. People feel free to talk to me, and I'm blessed with that. I feel very fortunate. People trust me that they can walk up and talk. But a lot of that is, I believe it's an active listening skill that they feel comfortable that they want to continue talking. And you've got the same thing, which is a great thing. Some of the things that we can do to improve our listening skills is, number one, concentrate on the speaker. So be present with the speaker, that while they're speaking, while they're talking, it doesn't matter what the topic is, whether it's something lighthearted or it's something really deep and meaningful, be there for them and concentrate on that speaker instead of looking around and looking at the plane go past and somebody walks past, hey, how you doing? Yeah, good to see you. Concentrate on your speaker, and that it really makes a big difference to the listening skills and getting them to open up and actually speak to you on it about anything. And this is something we do with sensitive topics to just light-hearted topics about anything, the sporting results on the weekend, or right down to the the deep and meaningful stuff, if you try and use the same skills for everything, it'll become a pattern. It'll become familiar and become normal to you. And then without thinking, you've improved your level of your listening skills. So concentration is a big one. You said earlier responding to what the speaker has said, and you brought up some great examples of that. It's so important to respond to the speaker versus reacting. And we've talked a lot about response versus reaction. Responding and validating what the speaker is saying, that must have been hard for you. I hear you, I feel you. Wow, that must have been a challenge. Or if nothing else, your response might be silence. It may well just be saying nothing for 5 or 10 seconds, and then, how can I help you with this? Or something
Yeah,
like that, which,
absolutely.
yeah, but a response is important, especially listening to people that have something they want to say. A lot of people either don't respond at all, or halfway through a conversation, they'll jump in with something of no value or little value, and it might be a solution that doesn't apply. It might be they haven't heard the whole conversation and they're trying to figure out an answer, or they might start, like we talked about in effective listening skills, they might fidget, poor eye contact. It could be anything where suddenly the conversation starts to slowly go downhill because of the listening skills of the listener. Where if we start working on these things, people will suddenly be drawn to you. They feel like they can talk to you about anything, good, bad, or indifferent, and you are right. I believe we're losing it as an art form. We are losing this art of being an effective listener. It's a shame, because I think it's such a great skill to have with people.
Let me ask you a question,
Go.
and it's an old adage question.
Are you saying I'm
We
old?
all have No, no, no. I'm saying the saying is old. Were you effectively listening to me then, Uncle Dave?
Yes, I was.
Let me ask and pose a question to our listeners, because I think this really does validate the point that you've just made. If a tree falls in the woods, does it make a sound?
I'll drink my coffee while you answer that one.
So most people go, of course it does. It only makes a sound if you have an ear to hear it.
But wouldn't it make a sound if you're not there anyway? Because it still makes a sound.
But how would you know it made a sound if there was no ear to hear it? Because when you have a vibration, you need the other side of the coin to actually resonate and pick up the vibration to know that it was actually a vibration. Does that make sense?
That makes
So how do
sense.
we know that it's a sound? We have ears. If we're not listening and we're not hearing, you're effectively watching a silent movie of a tree falling and going, ah, that was random. And that's essentially an ineffective conversation, because that's
Mm.
that's the result of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Just a side tangent that was seemed relevant at the time when you were speaking. I was like, this is a tree moment.
This is the tree moment.
The tree
Yeah,
moment, yeah.
it is a tree moment. I heard another one of those analogies, and I can't remember what it is now, but it was similar to if a tree falls in the woods. I can't remember what it is. It doesn't matter. Um, yeah. Moving on. I've got a memory like a sieve, as you know. Showing good
Sorry
posture.
to segue.
It's okay. Showing good posture and body language. This is
And as we just both set up straight.
so it's we both did. This is so important in being a good listener. And as you know, in in so many studies, and so many people know this, that 58% of your communication process with another person is body language. 35% is tonality. So what you physically say is only a small percentage, but your body language is so important when you are facing someone, sitting with someone, where you sit, across a table or next to them on a seat, how your arms are, you're folded, which way your head is turned, and all of that sort of stuff. Your body language and your posture is so important to either be welcoming, accepting, listening, or someone who's in a hurry, not interested, disinterested, They're trying to push you along because they have things. Your body language will convey exactly how you feel about somebody without you having to say anything. Nearly 60% of your communication with anybody is going to be body language. So important, LJ, that
Mm.
I think that's why we get along so well at coffee shops with staff that walk up and people that give us coffees and extra bits and pieces, is because alone the body language from them looking at us from afar, I think people are intrigued as to who we are, because we get a lot of questions about who are you guys, where are you from?
What are you doing?
And this is so many places we go to without having said anything. We get a lot of that because of our body language and non-verbal communication, how we present, how we vibrate, our energy. So for us, we can prove ourselves that it's very effective.
Would you say that it's more being the upright posturing you've just mentioned is it's an open body posture, so that it's like it's inviting, and then when you're kind of distracted and withdrawn, you slump, and that's a closed conversation. So it's would you say that that's an easy way to remember it?
It's an easy way. It is. So definitely for me, when I'm talking to, it depends who I'm talking to and my previous relationship with them, if they are someone I don't know versus someone I know very well. But one of the easiest keys for me to communicate with someone and get that rapport going quickly is I will mirror their body language. I'll mirror them because they then feel comfortable and they don't know why, but I copy what they're doing. So if someone's sitting on a bench seat and they're facing a certain way, I'll sit next to them and face into them the same way. Um, if their arms are crossed, I may cross my arms as well because I'm showing support and showing, and people accept that. People like that. So I don't put my hands on my hips and show superiority, or put my hands on my head or start fidgeting. I'll mirror them. If they're leaning on a table and I have to sit across from them, I'll lean on the table and sit facing the same way, and that is a really easy way, mirroring someone, to get that body language of they accept you, you accept them. It's a very simple way to gain rapport fairly quickly.
Who knew that there was so much to this active listening?
I know. Isn't it great? Isn't it great?
Well, I know that I mean, we are so blessed to have our people listening and the feedback we get. And thank you,
Yeah.
everybody, for the feedback, because this is actually part of, I guess, an open listening segue is accepting feedback, whether it be verbal or written. And we thank everybody for reaching out. And I've loved exploring this topic because the body language is a whole topic on its own and something that we should explore, but would probably be more fun done in a person to person live,
It would be.
because we can have more fun with it.
Oh, look, working live with a business, small, medium, large, working live with a group is, as you know, it's fun. We have fun. We do things that we can't do here on a podcast, and we love interacting with people. So, are we going to advertise ourselves right now and say, "Hey, give us a call because we want to work with you"? Because well, we do. We love working with groups, don't we?
But also for those of you who are keen to come and just meet us in person, we would
Yeah,
love to you to stay tuned, because next year we've got some live events kind of
we
in the
have.
works, shall we say? And we would
We
love
have.
to sit down and have a coffee with you and explore these topics. And yeah, we're people.
We are people.
The art
People.
of communication and listening and having these contextual conversations and rabbit holes is so much more fun in person.
This stuff is my jam. I love this
I
stuff with the body
love it.
language and behaviours and patterns, and I love this sort of stuff. Tonality, and we talked a little bit about tonality. Tonality as being a listener. What are your thoughts on that?
That explains your smooth chocolate voice, Uncle Dave. The biggest comment we get is about the depth and the richness in your voice. I know
Don't
you've
make me
just gotten
blush.
very bashful there,
Don't make
but
me blush.
it's true. It's true. There's something about the warmer tonality of a deeper voice that is calming and it's reassuring and it's confident, and it's very welcoming and very inviting for people to share. And I think that that's an absolute gift.
Thank you. It's a skill. It's definitely a skill, and I've done so many courses and research and work on working on tonality, on a voice especially. And one thing that stuck in my mind when I worked with one guy was you can say what you like, but the tonality of it will be accepted. It doesn't matter what you say. And his example was if you have your dog sitting in front of you and you love, I love my dog. I've got a German Shepherd. I love her, and you've got your dogs as well, and you love them. But tonality is everything because dogs don't understand a lot. They get body language and tonality, and I can look at my dog with a really loving voice and say, I hate you. I hate everything about you. I just wish you weren't here. I wish you were dead. And she will wag her tail and look at me with so much love because of my tonality. And I can
Yeah.
look at her and angrily say, I love you. I love you so much. And angry, and her ears will go back. And she'll think I'm telling her off because of my tonality. And the same goes for
It's a really
humans.
interesting, I was going to say,
Yeah,
interesting human trait too, isn't it? And
very
you're
much
very
so.
good at doing that.
Yeah, it's taken a lot of practice, and I'm nowhere near where I want to be. But I feel that it's important to have tonality when talking, and I do it with everybody. It's not just people that want to talk about serious issues. It's people that want to talk about anything: sport, fun, successes in their life, and wins and things like that. Tonality is so important to keep that relationship going, to keep that balance, keep that rapport going. I've had guys that have had tonality that have said things to me in the wrong tone. So they might have said the right words, but they've come across as being harsh or aggressive, loud, just the wrong tone. So, and that doesn't go down well as a listener, where I've had people that have said the right thing in the right tone, like being at a sporting event, and they're loud and they're, yeah, did you see that? This is fantastic. I love this stuff. And they got the right tone because they're in the right scenario. So that was all I was going to say is your tonality is important. You got to pick the tone of how you want to be as to how you want to be an effective listener.
I was um I was wanting to ask you because everybody listens to radio or feedback of some, like at some point in their time you listen to radio. We all have those adverts or those actors where we just go, oh my God, I can't listen to them. There's dare I mention, there's a tile ad and an actress who used to play a nanny. Like you hear those voices and it's like now it's down the chalkboard and it's all about their tonality. But in saying that, they've actually flipped it around because we all know who they are. So,
Yeah, they've become unique, and and
but they're
and there's
beautiful examples of tonality.
there's a great example because there's definite structure in that, and it's a deliberate marketing with what they actually because they bombard you with, and I won't say who because we know we're talking about tile ad,
Yep.
and we can talk about Fran Drescher because she's she's well known around the world.
I think she's great. I love her, but
Fran Drescher, she's great. Yeah, Mr.
how?
Sheffield.
But I don't believe she sounds quite that tonal in real life.
No idea. I
Not
don't know, but
not
yeah.
as not as consistent.
Mm, mm. Yeah, but you listen to, and we talk about voices, and one of my most revered favourite actors of all time, James Earl Jones, passed away last
Oh,
week. One of the best voices
what a
I've
soul.
ever heard. His tonality, his voice, his richness, the way he pronounced his words, from a guy that was growing up as a kid, he stuttered. He couldn't get a sentence out, and the more nervous he got, the more he stuttered. He couldn't even speak, to becoming probably the benchmark in voiceover work, voice actors, and then moving to mainstream Hollywood acting because of what he could bring to the screen. From Darth Vader in the 70s right through to countless movies, all the way to Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner, and I could go through James Earl Jones from, and dying at the age of 93. But his voice and his tonality for me would be the best I've heard for me personally. the way he would pronounce words, and you see him on screen talking to someone, and extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. And there are other people that have unique tonalities in their voice, like um, Morgan Freeman's another one. Jack Nicholson is another one. Love him or hate him, I think Jack Nicholson has got the most amazing voice, and the way he talks to people on screen is just extraordinary. There are people out there with their tonality and the way they speak. They they command a huge amount of respect, as in being a person who presents and promotes, and also someone who is a listener, because once they speak, they have you in. You listen with intent because of what they're going to give you. They add that to their listening skills, and I just think tonality is so important for what we do. And anyone out there, any person on the planet can improve their tonality, the way they pronounce their words, the tone of it, the speed of how they speak. All of those things are so important if you want to become an effective listener. And this is becoming quite a big rabbit hole.
It is. And that point there just reinforces how much there is to communication, because we've only touched on the listening part.
Absolutely.
And then we've kind of mentioned the body language part, and now we're mentioning the tonality part. And then on tonality, you could go, we're not going to do it today, but there's inflections and the words we use in terms of the types of questions. Like, there's so many more components to just having a conversation. But I love that we've explored, I guess, the priority for having a conversation is actually the ability to hear and acknowledge and be present with what's being said. So are you going to be the tree that falls in the forest, or are you going to be the ears that hear the tree? I would rather be the ears that hear the tree.
Listening skills.
Listening skills.
Effective listening skills. There's one more. There's one more.
Oh, one more. You always say the best to last.
There's one more. This one is so important, and it's a given for you and I. It is so important. It is one skill that is. These are all important skills, but this is one skill that I think we all need to work on, and it is respect the other person's point of view. Respect the other person's point of view. So I've been in conversations, I've heard other people in conversations where the listener's not being judgment free, and someone has volunteered some information or an opinion, a comment, a trauma, anything like that, and someone's gone, oh, really? Really? Why would you do that? They become judgmental. They pass their own perception of their life and their world onto the person who's actually volunteering information and maybe bearing their soul, maybe being honest about a situation, and they get it thrown back in their face with someone else's perception. Oh, really? Well, I wouldn't have done that. Why would you do that? Instead of respecting the other person's point of view and allowing things like silence, for example. Somebody may say something that doesn't align with you. It doesn't sit with you. It's not something you would do. Silence is a great thing. For example, you don't have to pass an opinion. You don't have to give any sort of perception of how you see it. Someone is needing you for something, even just to be heard. And silence is a great thing. Or even, how can I help you right now? It doesn't mean you agree with them or align with them. It doesn't mean that you support something someone did. But to be an effective and go next level, and I love the phrase next level, and you'll see that I use next level in a lot of my vocabulary. To go next level for us is easy. Silence for a little bit. How can I help you right now? Is this something you need? Instead of, really? I wouldn't have done that. What were you thinking? Which I hear a lot of, especially in Australia. That's a very common Aussie type of thing. Effective listening.
That's because we have a tall poppy. We have such a tall poppy syndrome here, because we don't listen, and we don't. I don't know why. Here in Oz, we're not as supportive and cheerleading to people doing great things. Just because it's different to what we're doing, or it's at a different, higher level, or they've got acknowledgement. Everybody deserves to have that acknowledgement and support. even if it's the small things.
Yep, absolutely. Do you know how we greet people? And we did an exercise a long time ago. It was how to greet people in 10 different ways.
It-
Remember that?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, I do. It's my favorite thing.
It's a great thing. We can do the same with our listening skills. So if you as in people out there, if you want to mix it up a little bit and change your response in your listening skills and work on something different, it's a great way to also work on yourself as a listener. So an example being, and I'll go back to boxing because I love my boxing. I had a boxer walk up to me a long time ago and he was quite surprised by a win. He said, I can't believe I won today. Now, most people would say, good on you, well done, congratulations, that was a great effort. Mix it up a little bit. So maybe I'm a little bit different sometimes. My response to him was a little bit of silence. And then I said, you know, this isn't just the first time. It's going to happen again and again. And it's going to happen again. And it's a different response. And so, okay, so it's planting a bit of a seed in him. It's a bit of a, you know what, I did it once, I can do it again. But that listening skill of, I hear you, let's mix it up a little bit. Let's make it a bit unique. Let's make it a little bit interesting, because he would have had 10, 20, 30 people walk up and go, that's a great one. Yeah, good. That was good. Well done. And one person would have said, that's not the first and only time it's going to happen. It's going to happen again and again. And it's going to happen again.
Or you're on a roll.
100%. So you do that with eye contact, tonality. You do that with all those things, and suddenly you've got a next level listening skill, and you've also got rapport and relationship. And then suddenly you've got someone who wants to hear you. They want to volunteer things to you, and that's how you can get work in the industry. You can get relationships. You can get sporting contracts. You can get so many things in your life by just up leveling and improving your listening skills.
And it goes back to another podcast we did about conversations open doors.
100%.
So imagine you've practiced these listening skills, you're getting better at appropriate responses through curiosity that lead to way better conversations and the opportunities that will come from that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I love this
There's a
topic. Thank you
whole
so much. It's a big gamut. It's almost like a wombat hole, really, because it's like a little hole. But
It's like a crater.
great
It's huge.
conversation.
We could talk for hours. We could do so much, but I love these conversations, and they're great, LJ. And thank you for your
Thank you
insights on
so
this.
much.
It's been a great chat. So thank you very much. Challenging. I love challenges for our listeners, and I think because this is video and Zoom, and we can rewind and all sort of thing. For the listeners and the viewers, find one or two things that you would like to challenge yourself on to become an effective listener. Identify where you are ineffective, which is important. But for me, I would like to suggest silence is a great one for people, is just remain silent for a little bit longer than you would, and then try to mix up your questions a little bit. It's a great challenge. It's very, very hard for some people to stay silent and just wait. It's hard because some people feel uncomfortable with that, where silence is just so powerful. And then the real kicker, the real embracing someone else and being present for them is, how can I help you right now? What do you need?
Yeah.
What's your next step?
Absolutely.
So you're making it all about them, and in making it about them, you're becoming a great listener. What do you need? What's your next step? What will you do next? How can I help you? There's nothing to do with me in this at all. It's all about, instead of just, oh mate, you okay? Or yeah, okay. Well, you know what? I wouldn't have done that. This is just, it takes you next level. And all of us want to go from here to there, from here to there, from here to there. We all want to go next level because it's part of growth. And I think growth in all of us is never ending.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love this challenge so, so much. And I'm going to I don't make hit predictions, but I'm going to make a hit predictions for those that want to take up the challenge. If you're finding that some of your friendships, relationships, business, wherever you're connecting with people are not quite as strong as you'd like them to be, my hit prediction is, and it's almost like an unwritten guarantee, that the better these skills get for you, watch those relationships take on a whole different next level, as you say.
I love that
And
comment.
watch your richness of your world and your environment also go to a different level, just because you're learning new skills and having the opportunity to have better connections with people. I love this challenge. Oh, Uncle Dave, this is so good.
That is one of the best comments. That is so true. And when you work on yourself and you upskill, everything around you just changes. It's extraordinary, and I think that's so accurate. Thank you.
I love this question. Have an amazing week, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for another video. It's really good. It's nice to see your smiling faces. It's nice that you get to put our faces to the names, and hopefully you continue to love what we do, and whether you're listening, whether you're watching, we're grateful and we appreciate the feedback. So thank you so much.
Are you Dave or LJ? I'm just trying to... We're there. We've got it.
We're there. We've got this.
Have a great week. Thanks for your insights. Thanks for your input, LJ. And until next time, we talk to you later.
Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. Hi, it's LJ and Dave here. Thank you so much for listening to the latest podcast.
We love what we do, and we know you get something great out of each and every publication.
So don't forget to jump on the website, coachtalk.com.au, leave us a message, let us know what you're up to, what you're enjoying, what you're loving most, and what else you'd like to see us do.
You can also find all of our content on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, and Apple Music.
Coachtalk.com.au is the website. Coach Talk. We've got you.